Hey guys, welcome to the MC Anime Podcast. We cover anime, geek culture, Japanese aesthetics, and Asian studies. We are a multi-fandom podcast, and you can expect to hear topics in your favorite hobby or fandom activity potentially. You can find MC Anime on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Also, please check out mcanimepodcast.com, our website. Furthermore, stay tuned in for another episode.
Welcome to another episode of MC Anime. MC here, and I have an interesting friend, special guest, Nat. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right.
So, before we get into the topic is and who Nat is and all that stuff, you can go to the podcast near you for like Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and more podcast directories. You can also follow us MC Anime Podcast at www.mcanimepodcast.com and join us on the Patreon community for support and love and share of fan-based culture and MC Anime Podcast. Further ado, this particular episode of MC Anime Podcast is the hospitality industry and how it is vital, and Nat is a special guest specifically for the topic, and we're going to discuss how the hospitality industry works, operates in the 4 segments, and overall how to dilute what is travel and how it impacts you in the day-to-day operation, like vacation and other amenities or trips necessarily. Further ado, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Nat? What you do, where we can find you on social media, and what overall, what do you like?
Well, first off, for a trade, I am a political consultant, and that means I travel from county to county, state to state, and sometimes that involves staying in hotels and whatnot. For social media, I can be found primarily on Twitter and Facebook, and also Truth Social.
Okay. So, he hit the nail right on the coffin. He travels a lot. So his travel experience is why he's here. He's going to give some input for the hospitality industry, explain the vitalness of it, why it's needed. He's going to provide personal experience of that. And we're going to also dive into the 4 segments of hospitality industry, which is food and beverage, travel and tourism, recreation, and lodging. All 4 aspects of that is vital. So let's first start with everyone's favorite pastime, food and beverage. What do you like about food and beverage?
Well, first off, everybody's got to eat. And I've had some really good experiences with it when traveling. I've had some really bad experiences with it and a whole lot of experiences in between.
Okay. So typically the food you eat when you go travel, let's explain some of that. So the international travel, let's do that first.
Well, when I travel overseas, I tend to want to eat like a local because, for example, in Ecuador, you can get guinea pig readily there. You can't just walk to the Publix and get you a pound or 2 of guinea pig. And I tried it over there. I like it. They fry it up like chicken, and it tastes very similar. And I never would have been able to say that unless I tried it. When you're in Ecuador, get yourself some guinea pig. That's all I gotta say.
What does guinea pig taste like?
Guinea pig, it's more or less a white meat. If you've ever had squirrel, it tastes most similar to that. But
I heard squirrel is really good to eat. So I do hear people, talk. You should eat the squirrel, eat the rodents. They have good meat. Now, there's not much meat, but there's enough to make a meal out of it, I think.
Guinea pigs are a lot meatier than the smaller rodents.
True.
And I had a good sized portion on my plate in the town of Atuntaqui, Ecuador, which is about 50 miles north of Quito.
True. And this is not China where they eat dogs and cats, so there's not your family pet. Yes, guinea pig can be a family pet. They're also a rodent type species that can live in the wild too.
Mm-hmm.
So just as much as you get this is the feeling of pet galore and cuisine, just know we're not China. So don't worry about that.
It's mainly the Koreans these days that do that.
Wait, dog and cat?
Yeah, that's it. But they're doing it less and less as it becomes more westernized.
I mean, true, I guess. So, like, what's some of the restaurants that you think? Let's just talk with the restaurant hospitality. What's expected in a restaurant, and how do the staff in the restaurant achieve the satisfaction of you as a customer eating there?
Well, that part is common just about anywhere you go in the world. A restaurant's object is to produce the best food and charge a reasonable price so that they can get more clientele in there and be able to pay their monthly bills and be able to serve more people and hopefully open more branches of the restaurant.
Okay, so if they open more branches of the restaurant, we talk about like family-owned chains kind of thing.
Family-owned regional chains like this one in Ecuador. It's El Bracero,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not guinea pig. It's
Not
a
guinea pig.
it's a barbecued chicken chain. It's all over central Ecuador, including Quito.
Okay, so where do you feel the areas of restaurants where it gets really pricey?
Well, it gets really pricey. A lot of times the size of the portion goes down. So you're paying a whole lot of money. A lot of these snooty places where they cook their tomatoes and they don't cook their green beans. You got a little bitty portion of food and you're paying like $50 for it, and you go home hungry. I don't see any value in that.
Oh, okay. So things like Gordon Ramsay or famous chefs you wouldn't want to go to because the price is so bad that you don't know what to do with it.
Not necessarily. It depends on what type of cuisine is offered. I mean, restaurants will charge more if they have a famous chef, but I'm talking about these nouvelle cuisine places where you have to pay a lot for a pittance on the plate.
Okay. So we talked about some food aspect. Let's go to beverage. So this beverage is, not just restaurants. You have the cafes. You have the drink stands. Another thing could be the parlors where you get desserts, the ice cream shops, stuff like that. What's a good beverage that you think is good?
Well, generally when I go to a regular restaurant around here in Mechanicsville, I just get water to drink because they don't have anything special in the way of beverage. I mean, restaurants have to take sides in the cola war between Coke and Pepsi. Chick-fil-A is a Coke establishment. The fast food restaurant across the street is a Pepsi establishment. I never have understood why they have to take sides in the cola war. And the only time I drink anything other than water is if it's a coffee shop, of course, that specializes in coffee, or if I'm in a foreign country that has a special non-alcoholic beverage that's like in Spain. I tried the horchata. It's like a milky, slightly chalky tasting beverage that has a flavor of almonds, things like that. And also in Spain, you have a lot more juice bars, like the one in Santiago de Compostela, right across from my friend's flat.
True. Juice bars are typically, they make the smoothies and give you the different juice, the fresh juice from the local farms and all that stuff. So that does feel authentic. It brings a new vibe, and also provide let's say you were thirsty and you pay $3 or $4 for this really good juice, but this really good juice is sometimes 18 ounces, something like that, like a big drink. Or is it a small drink?
Well, 18 ounces is pretty big at that juice bar in Spain that I was talking about. It definitely isn't a big gulp.
Ain't a big gulp. Yeah, you ain't going to 7-Eleven to get a big gulp. Actually, funny enough, another thing of travel is the stop and go places. So what do you think of like convenience stores
Like Wawa and Valero and all that?
Well, also, that not even that, just also when you go international, convenience stores are everywhere. The sushi, the pre-made sandwiches, stuff like that.
I hate to break your heart, but that's mainly an American thing. You do have some convenience stores abroad, but it's not as much ingrained in the culture as it is in America.
Well, I do know that Japan has a lot of convenience stores. They call it convenience stores because it's like a small grocery store. They have some stuff that you want, but you go to them to get like sushi's one thing to get.
Are they like on the motorway?
They're like a small grocery store.
Okay.
It's like a one-way stop to get your things.
And
it's like a Dollar General.
And
their convenience stores like a Dollar General, Dollar Tree.
I bet you that there's a bigger markup at the convenience stores in Japan too. So it isn't like a Dollar General with a discount.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times they put like vending machines as well. Like
there are a lot of vending machines in Japan because the real estate space in the cities of Japan like Tokyo and Osaka and all is at a premium, and so there's might not be enough space to put a restaurant, but some enterprising fellow could put up a vending machine and make a killing in one day because people are all on the go and everything there. It makes sense in Japan.
And they can put anything. They can put cigarettes. They can put, toiletry, cameras. I've seen phone cords and vending machines. The things you can put in vending machines is very useful. And it does provide another sector of the food and beverage industry to use as an outlet for fast to go food, ready to eat, ready to drink kind of perspective.
The trick with that, though, and why you don't see this as much in America is we've got health laws. How do you, when you put something in a vending machine, make sure it's fresh or it doesn't spoil and cause health problems?
Yep.
That we are more we are stricter on our health laws here in America, and that's why you don't see vending machines like this even in New York City and places like that.
Yeah, I think the most vending machines that I've seen for like food, like not snack wise but food wise, rest stops. Rest stops have like sandwiches you can buy, and you can eat the sandwich more than just in the snacks, but they're in a specialized vending machine that is refrigerated. They make it refrigerated, and you can buy it from there, and it gives you the sandwich, just like a gas station will.
Well, the difference in this and what you were talking about with Japan is the rest stop is staffed by people regularly, and they can switch out the spoiled or expired food, where you wouldn't have the health issues that you would in a Japan-like vending machine situation.
True. It's kind of interesting seeing the different perspective of like different cultures establish different food and beverage as a means to get what people want, feed them and make them have drinks, but also provide a good customer service experience that gives them what they need in return.
I think that's a fair statement.
And do you feel like, food and beverage is like vital in the hospitality industry, and why?
Absolutely, because the human being needs food and drink to survive, and the need for that doesn't take holiday when you're on holiday.
True. In grocery stores, I don't consider grocery stores food and beverage part of hospitality. Yes, they have customer service, but they are a retail establishment, so
You're right about that. You go to the store, you buy your chicken and your tomatoes and your canned Brunswick stew, but after you put it in the trolley, it's good luck, fella. And it's more of a personal experience when you go to a restaurant or even one of those convenience stores and get food, and you interact with somebody who serves you the food.
Yeah.
That's the human to human experience that I think you're after.
Absolutely. So this is why a little segment on food and beverage. Now, food and beverage is vital in the industry, but what also is vital is the sector where we have tourism and travel. Travel and tourism go hand in hand because you got to travel to the place to get there, and then the tourism is you as the tourist visiting that location and getting given your money that you saved up for the trip for activities to do in such area.
That's a fair statement. For example, let's just take a nearby town, Petersburg. It's a very historical place. You have to get there by some means. And there are quite a lot of historical places and museums in Petersburg, for example, to go see, and that most of them do charge you money to do that. And same is true in any city or town, big or small.
True. And the travel industry is kind of interesting because you have taxi cabs, trains, buses, airplanes, boats, even ferries and cruises are in that type deal as well.
And here domestically, you also have Uber.
Well, Uber's like a taxi. It's like a taxi.
It's more of a private, and
Yeah.
most taxis are funded by the city or municipality that they're in.
Well, most cities usually have the usually have the public bus transportation.
That's true.
And trains.
That's true. In certain cities in the Orient, you have rickshaws that are pulled by a human being.
Oh.
I haven't personally been to the Orient, but I know a lot of people who live there.
True. That's kind of interesting because when I went to Mackinac Island, Mackinac City, the island had a ferry to go over there. So you pay the ticket to go over the ferry. So there was a travel expense for tourism to use the ferry to go to the island. But there was no cars allowed on the island.
Oh, that's like Tangier in Virginia.
Yeah. And when you go over there, you either walk the entire island or you get horse rides. So the entire establishment of the island is resorts and activities and stuff like that.
Did you know that UPS even has to deliver on a golf cart on that island?
Oh, they do?
UPS, Amazon, whatever. There's no exceptions to the no car rule except possibly by police and fire.
Yeah, pretty much. And then you have the entire road with horses, and then bicycles everywhere. That's the main means of transportation. It's either horse carriage, and the horse taxi, because they ferry ships it to the destination. The horse takes the load and loads it up to the hotels, and then they bring in your luggage when you get there. Because if you have more than one luggage, guess what? You can't take it above. You have to put it down below. Right. You get a ticket, put your name on it, and you get it delivered to your hotel.
That's very similar to Tangier Island in terms of the local transport on the island.
So bikes everywhere, horses everywhere. So the taxi atmosphere fits because you have the bicycle taxis and then the horse carriages as tourism. But people, even though they're doing the carriages rides as taxis, they're also doing carriages rides around the island. So it's a really big place for tourism and a really busy area in the ports and restaurants also being on the island too. and then you get to resorts, which is a totally different topic, but that's where you need to stay to be there.
Right. On Mackinac Island, how many hotels are there?
Too many.
Just the one?
There's too many to count. Because you can have like 5 or 6 major ones, then you have the inns, and you have the small hotels, then you have the resorts. So you have inns, hotels, and resorts all on one island.
And not to mention the new phenomenon of Airbnb and Verbo and things like that.
Airbnb is kind of interesting in that too, and additional places to stay for lodging. So in your international travel, what is some of good experiences at the airport and some bad experience?
At the airport, you say?
At the airport, you have to fly to most of these places.
Yeah, that's very true. I've had some pretty good luck at foreign airports, but one case that took me back was on leaving Quito, Ecuador. They charged a $47 departure tax. And they did that at the time because they were in the process of constructing a new airport further outside the city.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's see. You travel to Spain, Ecuador, South America. You travel to Africa?
No, I've never been to Africa, either North Africa or subcontinental Africa.
You don't be part of it.
I haven't lost anything over there as of yet.
What, you've been over there?
No, I have not. I have not. I have no desire or any need to go.
True. South Africa will be bad.
When the crime rate goes down far enough, I may reconsider that.
How about Asia?
The only places in Asia I'm keen to go are the Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand.
Have you been to any of those places?
No.
So you've never been to Asia, only been to Europe and South America.
I've been to Australia and New Zealand.
How's that? How's the airport there?
The airports in Auckland and Sydney are very nice airports. They're very clean, very orderly. I had absolutely no trouble there, and no trouble finding and catching my flight. Wasn't like at John F. Kennedy where you have 9 different terminals, each one with several different airlines.
Okay. Public transportation. What has been the reputation that you think has been good in your traveling experience?
Well, that would depend on the city. Some cities have more reliable public transportation than others. For all of New York's faults, I think it has a more together public transport system because they've been doing it for a long time. The subway's been working in New York City since about 1904. Washington Metro has been there since 1976, and it together with Metro Bus is a somewhat reliable system. But you have bigger cities like Los Angeles that are spread out. It's hard to have a transportation system, and in Los Angeles the big challenge is because it's earthquake territory. You don't want to have too many underground subways because there may be a cave-in the next 6.0 earthquake that hits.
True. About like Europe, for example. What's the transportation like over there?
Well, public transportation is more of a thing in Europe because the countries are smaller in terms of geographical size and population. And in France, they've got something like the Japanese bullet train called the Très Grande Vitesse, or TGV. It's easier to do in a smaller country. France is about the size of Texas in terms of geography, so it's easier to have a nationwide transportation system than it is in a 3.6 million square mile country like the United States of America.
Okay, so something like small scale. The infrastructure is easy to build up, give vital citizens transportation, access to such transportation, while United States is more like city demand. If your city is busy enough, if it will benefit the public more, type of projects. So the public projects versus private Well, like Europe is mostly just all around the board, basically.
That's right. The United States is too big and too diverse a country to make that work.
And our infrastructure is already beat up with all the highway system too. So,
And another thing, the culture in America, that just people are just chained to their cars, and that's that's you can't just take a person's car away from them. I don't care what the governor of California says.
True. How about trains? What's trains like in your experience?
Well, the trains in Europe are far superior to our Amtrak over here. This I can speak with great authority because both summers I studied abroad in Europe. Nice, France in the summer of '89 and Madrid in the summer of '90. I didn't stay put in those towns at the weekends. I went and visited friends in other parts of that country on the weekends, and I also spent some time in other parts of Europe after my studies were over. And European trains get there on time. And the running joke with Amtrak, especially south of DC, where we share the trains with the freight companies, is if you get there an hour late, you're early.
Oh, okay. How about taxis? What do you think about taxis in foreign affairs?
In foreign countries, I think the taxis in Paris and London are a lot cleaner than the ones in New York and Richmond.
Yeah, I do agree with that one. I also see like the taxis be like really standardized. Ours is just all over the place. Like they have a set color for particular taxis. We don't have a set color.
Well, it used to be in New York, they were all yellow with a checkered design on them, but the taxi industry in that city even has diversified.
True. Do you feel like Europe is like similar taxis?
I think it's more uniform, and we'll just use London and Paris for an example because those are the taxis with which I have the most experience.
Yeah.
In London, for example, to be licensed to drive one of those black taxis that have tall roofs so that people with top hats can get in without crushing the hats. That's why they're designed that way. True story. Is that the drivers have to take this test about all the streets in London. They call it the knowledge, and it's as hard as a devil to pass. And some people have to take it 5 or 6 times before they get their license.
So the demand for that test is like really up there.
Well, it's not so much a supply and demand type of thing. It's a difficult test. I mean, people who are born and raised in London sometimes have trouble passing the knowledge because it's so difficult and they have to take it 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, that reminds me of the testing culture of China and Korea.
Now they've been doing it that way since before China and Korea started having taxi cabs.
Yeah, true. And then about Paris?
Paris, it's a little bit less rigid than in London, but they do have cleanliness standards in the taxi cab, and although Paris has a reputation of being this rude city, that they also have courtesy standards for their taxi drivers because they want tourists to keep coming back and spending their money, even if it is ugly Americans doing
it. Ugly Americans doing it. Yeah, that's pretty much.
And when I use the term ugly Americans, I'm talking about Americans who go to a foreign country and expect to have a McDonald's on every corner.
True. McDonald's ain't everywhere. I mean, McDonald's is in foreign countries, but they're not.
Well, that's true. But there's some people who won't try the local foods or observe the local customs to save their life. That's what I mean.
I just tell them to go to the local grocery store and take it with them, or bakery or something. They can get what they want there.
I could use something good from a Paris boulangerie.
So you as a tourist, what's your experience been like with tourism?
Well, generally when I go to a foreign country, I've been treated with respect, even though Americans don't have a good reputation as a whole in a lot of these countries. It helps that I can speak Spanish, French, Portuguese, German, and Italian very well, at least well enough to get by in a travel situation. Helps to know the language, and a lot of times if you respect them, they will respect you back.
Alright, so the languages that you just said, which one do you think is probably your best language, except English?
Spanish, because I get to practice it most often, but I can survive a travel situation in any of the others.
Well, Portuguese is similar to Spanish.
I know that. I taught myself Portuguese in a week because it was similar to Spanish.
True.
And Italian was pretty easy too, because the same family of languages as all the others except German. I did take some German at George Mason University, and my friends over there, they speak English so well I don't have to use my German too often, but still I can if I have to.
How about French? What's French like?
French is in the Romance language family: Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, and Romanian.
Okay. What's probably the furthest you traveled to?
Oh, easily Australia. That's no contest there.
So Australia's unique because you have the outback, you have different parts of the Sydney. You also have just an entire island country. You don't usually have an island country, except for England.
Well, yeah. When I went to Australia, I mainly was in Sydney, and we took a day trip an hour west to the town of Katoomba, where we visited a zoo/amusement park, and there's a picture of me somewhere on Facebook holding a koala bear.
Oh, okay. So what's tourist attractions? What is vital for a tourist attraction to seek out new customers from a tourist perspective?
Well, the tourist attractions need to convey the uniqueness of the city. Like, say, Petersburg, because it's rich in Revolutionary and Civil War history. The Crater Battlefield, as well as Center Hill Mansion, Blandford Cemetery, and the Siege Museum, are represent what's unique about Petersburg.
Okay.
And going further abroad, the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, the Invalides, and the other tourist attractions in Paris, the Big Ben in London,
the Paris Ferris wheel.
Well, the Eye in London's a newer thing. That was installed after my last trip to London.
You didn't see it. Did you see Big Ben?
Yes, I saw Big Ben, and if
did you go to the top?
No, that wasn't open to tourists, but I did go to the top of the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, how about Statue of Liberty?
Statue of Liberty, we didn't do that. I was 7 years old when I went to New York.
Okay,
I've seen it from a distance, though.
Okay. How was the Eiffel Tower?
How high is the Eiffel Tower? It's 3 times the size of the one at King's Dominion. So it's almost 1,000 feet tall.
Oh, okay. So, the uniqueness of tourism attractions should apply what it's about. Should it be a activity that a tourist should enjoy, but also stand out from other businesses that are doing the same thing?
I think when I say uniqueness to the city, I mean the Eiffel Tower is unique to Paris. I wouldn't want to put anything like that in Bangkok.
Oh, okay. So the geography also plays a role too.
Well, not only that, but the history of the city. There's nothing in, say, Bangkok in that culture or history, that would make sense to put an Eiffel Tower there.
True. And one thing I think of tourism, one particular location is Egypt. They had the pyramids, they had the guys, the Giza, the desert. There's uniqueness in the culture to go there, but also if you go to like South America, the Mayan temples, the temples in the jungle, and
that's more Mexico. That's more Mexico than anything else.
Yeah.
The Aztecs in Mexico had that. The Incas in Peru, they didn't have that so much.
No, but they did have some temples. There's like deep jungle temples in the middle of nowhere.
And the Incas weren't all just in the jungle. The city around Lima, for example, was founded by the Incas before the white man came in the 1500s.
And another application to tourism is the water. What does boats have to compete to give people satisfaction in that area?
Well, again, it depends on the geography. A more coastal setting or one near a river, boats would play more of an integral role.
Like the beaches is a common tourism attraction in many aspects, because going to the beach is literally part of letting loose and where the water type activities like water skiing, parasailing, all that is applied.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I was thinking more about water as a transportation hub, like delivering goods up a river or to a seaport and everything like that.
The Panama Canal and the shortcut from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean.
That's it. Yeah, in fact, I did an airport stop one time on the way back from Ecuador. We had to stop in Panama City to refuel.
Oh, okay. So you stopped in... Panama City is kind of small, isn't it?
I don't know. We weren't allowed to deplane, but it was very short stop. But I would be willing to go there in the future sometime just to check it out a little bit.
Yeah, true. So now tourist attractions are really good, but with any tourist attraction in tourism and travel, you need the place to stay, the lodging. What is your experience with lodging that is vital for tourism and people traveling?
Well, I think when you talk about lodging, most people still stay at a standard hotel, even though the industry has evolved quite a bit over the past few years. And in any country, the standard for that sort of thing is, I want a comfortable bed, clean room, a bathroom that's in the room instead of having to go down the hall to the bathroom like we had to do when I went to Paris that first time.
You in a hostel?
No, it was an old school hotel. They had one bathroom per floor. They just do things differently over there, particularly in the old style buildings that we were in.
Because I know with Europe, they do a lot of hostels and Airbnbs, really popular kind of thing.
Well, the hostels are mainly for young folks under 26, and I did stay in a youth hostel in Strasbourg. My friend from Germany met me halfway in Strasbourg, France, and I went up to Strasbourg from Nice, where I was studying French that summer.
How do hostels differentiate from a hotel?
Well, it's more youth-oriented, and they have like a game room where you could play table tennis and watch TV. It's more like a summer camp environment, if you will, than a Holiday Inn.
True. As we mentioned before, Airbnb has really transformed any place to be a destination staying lodging. I think that's been revolutionary in the fact that now someone's home, now that they are a host, they're taking procedures to make accommodations for guests to stay there.
I've never tried that. Generally speaking, when I travel to a particular destination, I happen to have a friend who lives in that town, and they would skin me alive if I didn't stay with them. So I haven't had too much experience with.
Now, not everyone has so many friends like you, obviously.
I was just born lucky, I guess. But I'm just telling you my personal experience and why I'm a little bit lacking in this category.
Well, okay, my experience with Airbnb is not bad. You of course you research the host. You have like different classes like the super host, regular host, stuff like that. The super hosts go above and beyond to accommodate the guests that have to stay in the house. Now, it is like a personal safety issue on some aspects. If yes, the host is, they get background check, but the person that doesn't get background check is the guest. But that applies to anywhere when anyone's staying anywhere.
Yeah, I would hate to have Holiday Inn run a background check. I mean, I would pass it, but I just don't like the idea of being checked out because this ain't China.
Well, okay. Well, the host, just like taxi drivers, have to stay within a credibility standard to be able to give the service. So, there's a refund policy that Airbnb has that you can go and claim a refund. And then the host complies with what their standards for the refund policy, and you put it together. Not all the time. There's Airbnb is everywhere. Europe has it. Like, I feel like Airbnb is more popular in Europe than America because America's not really taken off as much. Yes, people are still earning money from it because of the tourism. You get some of the percentage from the hotels, but it's a bigger thing in Europe because now hotels in Europe are really expensive.
They always have been. And I don't think the hotels in Europe are quite as good as the ones we have over here.
Yeah, American hotels, if you get to really maybe a 3 stars when you actually start hitting the good places. 2 stars not bad, like Super 8.
And I've actually stayed in hotels in Europe because the first 2 times I went to Europe, I was doing those whirlwind group tours, and I've stayed in some good hotels, and I stayed in some shabby hotels.
True. What does a hotel have to give to the guests? What do they have to ensure in order, beyond the room situation? What, like, other things like amenities or discounted tickets or attractions?
I don't really think it's a hotel's responsibility to give people discount tickets to the Eiffel Tower if you're in Paris or something like that. Hotel's responsibility is mainly to give the guests a safe and clean place to stay, and sometimes offer a free breakfast as a gimmick to get them to stay there. I know Comfort Inn, at least when I stayed there on the morning of September 11th, 01, they had that whole breakfast buffet that morning.
Well, they did.
Yep. And hotels can have various food gimmicks like that, or some hotels had a full-on restaurant like the Howard Johnson's chain did at one time.
Oh, so like full-on restaurants in the establishment at the hotel itself.
Yes, Howard Johnson's always had a restaurant, and they also had 28 flavors of ice cream to boot.
Well, that's good.
Unfortunately, the restaurant is no longer in business because it doesn't fit today's evolving norms. True. And that's a shame because it was a very, very nice place to stay. And both times we took road trips down to Disney World when I was a kid, we always stayed at Howard Johnson's in Savannah, Georgia on the way down. The first time, and the second time, Tifton, Georgia on the way down, and Greenville, South Carolina on the way back.
Oh, okay. Now, let's see. amenities, the pool, the towel, the gym room, the business center, is that usually applied to Europe as well, or they have less?
The hotels I stayed at in Europe didn't have a whole lot of amenities apart from the room. Some hotels, like Tour Hotel in Munich, had a restaurant downstairs. But as far as gym and pool and things like that, not as much.
How about business centers? Are they more like the network cafes?
The hotels that I stayed at were more geared towards the leisure traveler rather than the business traveler. But of course, since those whirlwind group tours I took in the 80s, that might have evolved somewhat since then.
Okay. So, do you feel like, let's just talk about this, the penthouse suites in hotels, those can get really expensive.
Well, in the snooty New York City places that I've heard of, that's true, but none of the hotels I've ever stayed at had a penthouse.
Oh, so only certain big hotels have penthouses.
Certain big hotels have penthouse, but you wouldn't catch a penthouse at the Holiday Inn down the street in Mechanicsville, or at the Comfort Inn in the West End. You might get something like that at the Hotel Jefferson in downtown Richmond, yeah. But yeah, your swankier hotels will have the penthouse suite. But if you got all that money to stay in a penthouse suite, you're sure not going to be staying at a Holiday Inn.
True. And also with that characteristic, you also have different amenities that hotels can give to attract people. Like, what is a unique hotel that you stayed at that you felt like was kind of cool?
I would say the hotels that offer free breakfast, like the Comfort Inn that I stayed at in Salem, Virginia on September 11th, 01. Gimmicks like that attracts price-conscious tourists or business people.
Okay. Now, let's say the hotel went out the way to collect brochures. Do you feel like that is an acceptable expense for the hotel to at least have a little area where you can go see different brochures and go visit the areas nearby?
Oh yeah, I think that's very helpful to the tourists, and the tourists appreciate that. But what I said earlier, that it's not the hotel's responsibility to offer discount or free tickets to local attraction. That still stands. Those brochures, a lot of times the local chamber of commerce or board of tourism gives them to the hotels free because they want all the exposure they can get.
True. How about a shuttle type service from the airport to the hotel? Usually larger hotels have this.
Well, especially those hotels that are right next to the airports, that's a very helpful amenity. Like this, for example, I was day late leaving out of Kennedy on the way to Madrid due to a weather delay, and they put us at the Garden Hilton near the JFK airport, but it was far enough away you couldn't walk to it, so the shuttle was very helpful.
Okay, so some hotels having a shuttle service can be beneficial in how you can navigate that.
Yeah, if it's near an airport or near a specific attraction, the shuttle would be worth the hotel's while to maintain.
Okay. Now, with hotels, you have places to stay, and here the tourist attractions is another activity to do. But another freeform activity that also does influence a lot of traveling is recreation. You go for recreation and travel for a specific purpose while doing it.
Well, recreation is basically anything where you break a sweat. Mm-hmm. And that could be a day at the beach, it could be rock climbing, it could be water skiing, Let's say you have a hotel in Clarksville, Virginia, along Bugs Island Lake. Recreation would fit in with that establishment too.
Okay.
In Occoneechee State Park, right there in Clarksville.
Oh, all right. So, like, having different areas for tourism to visit that's not, just say, attraction, but more like a, Central Park, New York is one example. We have the Paris. Well, not really.
You
Paris,
have more parks in Paris than you can
Yeah.
shake a stick at. Same in Madrid.
River serve as a good recreational activity, for swimming
And rowing.
boating. Yeah, there's different things to do with it. I feel like the recreation industry is kind of interesting because you got the rock climbing, you got the desert walking, you have the beachfront, you have the various lake apparition, even farms can be a good attraction too for recreation because you can go walking around, going tours and stuff.
Especially wineries.
Oh yeah, wineries are definitely getting you there. You can taste the wine, going
you do a fair amount of walking, touring around a winery. There's no short hike on those.
True.
I know that much because a friend of mine I met in Madrid, his parents owned a winery in Napa, California.
Oh, okay. How's the wine there?
I only cook with wine. I don't imbibe myself.
So when you cook it, does it smell good?
Yeah, it smells very good, and the red wine that I had from there went real well with the beef that I was cooking at the time.
So do you feel like recreation is an area that people don't do enough of, or is it increasing?
Well, I think Americans have this reputation of being lazy and fat, but at the same time, younger people are more health conscious, and they get into recreation a lot more than, say, people my age ever did.
Oh, that's good. And what's your opinion about the recreation in other countries?
I think other countries like Switzerland have been doing it a lot longer than we have, and still do it better.
All right. Have you did any recreation in your trips?
Oh, yeah. When I went to Neuschwanstein, that's one of King Ludwig's castles in Bavaria, you had to do recreation just to get up the hill to get into that castle.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking some serious hills that would make San Francisco blush. But I had no problem then. I was 17 years old, and at that time, and the tour guide and me were just steadily walking up the hill, and everybody else in the group was at least 100 yards behind us. And so, yeah, some places where you go to, like Neuschwanstein in Germany, if you go to Peru, way up in the Andes Mountains, there's this Incan settlement called Machu Picchu.
No,
that's way up in
Machu Picchu.
That's way up in the mountains there. You have to break a sweat to get there.
True. Recreation is kind of interesting because it's rock climbing, you have walking, you have different parks you can visit, you have the nature scenes like canoeing, right, or rafting, rowing is another example. You also have bicycling, like the bicycle roads.
Now, in some towns, like Amsterdam, for example, they will rent you a bike by the day, and you can just tool around town all you want to, just obey the local traffic laws on the bike.
Then, America's also big because we have like the big Appalachian Trail, bike trail, and different like things you can do tour wise that actually makes it easier. Because I know I had a friend who did I think Madrid tour, and they were touring around, and when they were doing a marathon, and they stayed at various spots along the way in Madrid, in Spain as a whole, and actually made an entire journey of like different stops, and people offered like how accommodations for lodging and all this other stuff.
Very interesting. I did spend the summer in Madrid, Spain in 1990, study abroad program. And I found the city very interesting and historical, and I would very much like to go back someday.
What's the longest you've been in one area when you visited?
Well, I would say again during the study abroad programs, I spent a lot of time in Nice and Madrid. Of course, I would go away from those towns at the weekend, but during the weekday, I would have class until about noon, and then after class, I would go about the city, talk to the locals in either French or Spanish, and just tour the place, get to know the place, think like a local, if you will. That was, I think I got more out of those two trips than I got out of my rest of my time at George Mason University.
Yeah. And one thing that people don't understand, some of these areas rely on tourism for the main source of revenue for the area. Because since they're unique as a tourist spot, they can bank on different money coming in during the tourist season to make up for maybe the slow part like winter, when it's not as busy.
Well, locally, Tangier Island is a prime example of that. The ferry stops running in mid-October right about now. And the money they make from the summer has to carry them through to April when the next ferries come over from Reedville.
Yeah, true.
But in the Caribbean islands, some entire nations depend on the tourist industry to.
Egypt is one as well.
Well, yeah, I would say that the cities around the pyramids more than the whole country. I'm talking about little island nations in the Caribbean, such as Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao. Depend fully on the tourist industry, and one bad hurricane could turn the whole area into a depression for quite a number of years until the tourist infrastructure is rebuilt.
Yeah, natural disasters in smaller areas has a bigger impact because the main source of revenue from the tourists can't come because the damage in the infrastructure to restore it is taking longer than the actual tourist season coming in.
That's exactly right, and that's why many of those nations, when that happens to them, they have their hand out to the United States and to Europe for foreign aid.
True. So, in this discussion, do you feel like in your traveling, you encountered good people, bad people in the middle?
I would say 95 to 97% good. I have run into some jerks, in which case I would give as well as I got in their own language. And that they knew they weren't just messing with some naive American who didn't understand what they were saying.
So what was the example of that? They said something bad and you said something bad?
My first trip to Paris, we were on a long bus ride from Lucerne, Switzerland into Paris, and we stopped off at this truck stop about midway between the two towns. And I ordered a hamburger and fries, and this wasn't a McDonald's type of thing. This was a French-owned truck stop, and this chef who's so fat he probably bled gravy. He put green beans on my plate, and I ordered in plain French fries, and I told him that, and he put fries on my plate, but when he did, he gave me the dirtiest look, and I gave one right back at him.
What was the misunderstanding? You didn't want French fries?
No, I did want French fries. The fool put green beans on it.
What's wrong with green beans?
I ordered French fries. I think the customer ought to get what they want, and the French word for French fries is no way similar to that for green beans.
Maybe.
And he thought he could put one over on me because I was a 16-year-old American, but I wasn't having none of it. And I would say to all y'all out there, the customer is always right, no matter what country you're in, and you stand up for your rights.
Yeah, we hear it. So this is a little bit into the hospitality industry, how it is vital, Nat's experience with traveling abroad and locally in region in the United States as well. If you like his testimony and overall experience, where can they find you on social media, specific, like name it out and stuff?
Well, I'm on Facebook, facebook.com/smalltownsouthernman, and on Twitter and on Truth Social, I'm at Reckovold97.
All right. And as this episode comes to a close, I thank Nat for his experience in traveling and his overall diverse menu of what he has to offer. We talked about the food and beverage industries, the travel and tourism, the lodging experience, the recreation. So those are the 4 basic concepts. I think he explained them really great from different perspectives of each industry. And hospitality provides what the customer is getting. You go to the country, you want accommodations, and whatever you do, whether it's travel, tourist attractions, recreation, fine dining, or drinking, you want to have the things you want in order that you expect kind of similar, not the same, but similar-esque experience to take forward in your travels. What do you think?
I think that's a fair statement. I would encourage the folks out there, if they gonna spend all that money, go to a foreign country, to try the local food and to interact with the locals as much as possible.
And you'd be surprised if you don't know another language. So sometimes the locals actually know a good bit of English. Just if you are English speaking, typically, something like Europe and stuff, learn English as like a second language kind of thing. So they can mostly deal with the most of English speaking tourists. Now, there's other tourists from other areas, but keep in mind, since we're, my podcast is in English, have English as not all the time, like Quebec and stuff like that, where they only speak French, you cannot get away with it. So don't go to Quebec where French is mainly dominated and they refuse to speak in English.
I've never heard of that happening with friends of mine who have been to Quebec. Usually,
it's either English or French.
Yeah.
It's either one of the two. But they're not going to speak both. They're going to speak one.
Well, I wouldn't have any problem either way since I'm fluent.
Yeah,
in French.
I know. I can't be like you, knowing all these different languages and not even compare.
Well, generally, if you have a doubt, I would probably stick to the touristy areas, or hire a guide that's fluent in French if you're in Quebec City, to take you into those French-speaking areas that would assist you in speaking to the locals. That's the go around for that.
Yeah,
and that would apply anywhere in the world. Like, say you go to Bangkok, and I don't speak Thai either. I would do this for myself. If it's like an old school part of Bangkok, I would hire a Thai tour guide for the day, and we would tool around that part of town.
Yeah, true. And he would take you. Maybe the tour guide would take you around like they do with they ride around with the humans. The human will
You're
take
talking
you
about
on.
the rickshaw, yeah. That's more prevalent in Hong Kong.
But does the tour guide have to do everything for you though?
Huh?
Does the tour guide have to speak and walk you to the places you want?
I don't think the tour guide would actually pull the rickshaw in those towns. But I was on a whirlwind group tour in Tahiti where the tour guide drove the bus too, because he felt like it was easier for him to just drive the bus and take us to where he wanted us to see, rather than to tell some bus driver that he hired for the day to do. That would make sense to do on a small island like Tahiti.
All right, folks, you hear it from Nate. He provides a good experience. He's traveled a lot. I have not traveled as much. I should probably travel as more, but that'd be to be planned, to be continued for another topic.
Maybe one of these days you and I can take a foreign trip together.
Oh, ain't that hard, you know that. Alright, guys. As this episode comes to a close, you can go to the podcast where you go podcast near you. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart Music, iHeart Radio, and Amazon Music. Also, visit us at www.mcanimepodcast.com, where you see the live update to the podcast, what we do, and everything in between. Join us on the Patreon community, where you can give support and funding to the podcast itself. Plus, you can get original content. You have polls. You can contribute ideas to the podcast episodes, cover art design, special guest appearance like Nat here, and others to be continued. Alright, guys. Bye and have a nice day. And Nat, thanks for being here.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it.
Alright, bye, guys.
This concludes another episode of MC Anime Podcast. MC Anime Podcast is available on podcast directories like Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. We also have our website at mcanimepodcast.com. If you want to directly support us, then follow Patreon blog MC Anime. Finally, if you want services for hire, then we're available on Fiverr for audio and video production, graphic design, idea consulting, and blog and article writing.